listening to Evergreen Media Network. I am Cindy Schwartz, and this is the Patient Partner Show. Look us up on Spotify and Spreaker. We are also a podcast. Jeannie Roller and I today are going to talk a little bit more in depth about a subject that we talked about on a podcast previous, and it's about organ donation, Jeannie. And I asked you the question when you brought it up about the patient that was going to have his heart cut out, as an organ donor, because he was an organ donor, but he was also an illicit drug user. And so, how that whole thing played into him being the person on the table that really wasn't actually brain dead, so they shouldn't be harvesting his heart. My question was, well, why are you going to harvest a heart of someone that is an illicit drug user? And so you were nice enough to look up some information. It's kind of eye-opening, and some of it wasn't to me, given the unethical way that two of the doctors in that instance allegedly were going about harvesting his heart, even though he wasn't brain dead, but he was a drug user. So it says in this article that you gave me, it was published July 28th, 2021. It is in the Heart Failure and Journal of the American Heart Association report, and the title of the article is Hearts from Donors Who Used Illicit Drugs or Overdosed, Safe for Transplant, Cuts Wait Time. So now we got a bunch of things in play here. So the wait time is cut down for people that are on, and we're talking about hearts here, not the lungs or the kidneys, so we know about that. But this one's geared right here that I'm reading about is the heart. That there are now so many people addicted to fentanyl and other street drugs, and I have a list here of ones that they run for drug blood tests, what drugs are actually in the person's system when they're being readied for as an organ donor. And there are so many people that are dying from fentanyl and dying young. So supposedly you have a viable organ there. But what does the drug addiction come into play? And this article is saying that data made available in 2019 found, quote, no downside, end quote, to transplanting hearts from people who had used illicit drugs. And the practice has become routine, using these harvested organs from people that were addicted to drugs. One of the lists that I have in front of me of the report, the toxicology report, whatever you want to call it, the most prevalent drug in the category of being addicted to drugs is benzodiazepines, and those are your Valium, Xanax, Ativan, Klonopin, those kind of drugs. So that is the number one drug. Marijuana is the second. Then we go to opiates, alcohol, amphetamines, cocaine, barbiturates, methamphetamine, oxycodone, methadone, and acetaminophen, which I found amazing that was on the list. So there's your top drugs that people are addicted to and are either illicit or prescription drugs. And they find that survival rates after a heart transplant are unaffected if the organ donor had used illicit drugs or died due to an overdose, a fact that is increasing the availability of hearts due to the rise in drug overdose deaths in the U.S., according to two new unrelated research studies that were published in two of the American Heart Association's scientific journals. So that's where I got that information from. And it's just amazing to me. So what is it now? How many times have we said on these podcasts, is it supply and demand now in a different arena? And I'm not laughing about it. It's just chillingly sad, ethical. What are we doing now that so many people in our society are addicted to some kind of drug? And now that has become very few and far between that are people that have zero. That's how they label it, people that don't have any drugs in their system, at all. There's not that many people that are zero drug-related in their blood work available. So I don't know, Jeannie, what are your thoughts on this? To me, it's just, I don't know I honestly don't know what to think.
I don't either. I mean, I would say probably now there would probably be more fentanyl deaths because fentanyl is such a problem, especially in certain areas. And I would think that someone who died from a fentanyl overdose it blows my mind that the heart would be usable, because we know they usually go into cardiac arrest.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of, I'm not medical, so it blows my mind that that heart would still be viable.
Yeah, I mean, we're not doctors or lawyers. I mean, these are just things that we're reading about, trying to figure out what it actually means in the grand scheme of things. But, I'm with you. The same as cocaine. I mean, don't a lot of people that have a severe cocaine addiction die from a heart attack?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
the only saving grace there, I might think, it certainly killed the donor.
Yeah.
But the donors are becoming younger and younger.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Because of all the drugs. I do know that some of the recipients are older, and they are less likely to do as well as someone who's younger receiving an organ. But I think the donors are becoming younger and younger because of the fentanyl crisis, the drug crisis that we have in this country. I don't know. I didn't research other countries, but I know here in the United States, because of the drug crisis, there are more donors.
So here's another statistic that's in this article. It says, compared to organ heart donors from 2003 to 2007, donors in 2013 to 2017 were older, weighed more, were more likely to have high blood pressure and diabetes, and to have used illicit drugs, which increases the risk of hepatitis C. So there's another variable in this whole equation. So a lot of things, I think, too, in reading more, we don't have time on this podcast to delve into that, but there are more drugs available to counteract some of these diseases and stuff. We know vaccines, different things like that that are available, right? However, compared to 2003 to 2007, the risk of death among transplant recipients in 2013 to 2017 was 15% lower 1 month after the heart transplant and 21% lower 1 year later. So I think that brings into the picture that there are other drugs available now, certainly even in those 10-year period, and vaccines and those kind of things that are available to counteract anything that would happen with that. It's an interesting topic. I don't know what the legality issues of some of this stuff is. We talked about the one guy on a previous podcast that was getting harvested because he was an organ donor. I mean, there certainly are black market ways to get organs as well. I mean, everybody knows about that. But this is just, is it going to be like scads of like going to, and I'm making this up, but scads of hearts available like in a supermarket now, because we have so many people that are addicted to fentanyl and die from these fentanyl and these illicit drug deaths and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know what the depth is of all of it. I know there's a lot of money to be had with these organ transplants and stuff. I don't know what the viability of how long people last. My own personal instance of a friend who was young, she was 17. The parents signed for her double lung transplant. She was born with cystic fibrosis, was not taken care of properly for this flu symptoms that she had, and it went into where she needed the double lung transplant. She lasted 4 years. I want to say the operation was $3 million plus across the board. I don't think I'm out of the parameters on that. The parents are still paying for it, and she didn't last but 4 years. And her own personal opinion, when I asked her, was that she would have rather died because of the complications and the lack of quality of life that her particular instance was with that double lung transplant. So, I mean, it can go both ways, too. But, I mean, has that become now a harvesting industry because of all these fentanyl deaths? Because it says also in this article, in the couple seconds we have left, that there are certainly more organs available nowadays because of these illicit drug overdose deaths. Very sad. I mean, it's very sad. It's something to be aware of. And, on that note, stay listening to Evergreen Media Network.